The MAIL'S Man from Mayo, SHANE McGRATH. Our supporters finally get joyous answer to painful question we have asked ourselves for 75 years as, at last, we're allowed to escape the house of pain. When that whistle sounded, and the game was one day called to a conclusion, and when a Mayo team were leading in an All-Ireland final, what would it be like? It was a question that nurtured 1,000 drives through the Mayo heartlands on Sunday mornings down the years, Croke Park beckoning, and the wish germinating. And that question dissolved on those Sundays, made redundant by defeats that were by turns embarrassing and heartbreaking. The road home felt longer, the night creeping in, and the image of a Mayoman on the steps of the Hogan Stand disappearing into the fog of a familiar disappointment.
Tired of messy watermelon prep? The crisp taste 2-in-1 watermelon cutter slices neat cubes quickly, then switches to a retractable fork for easy serving with less mess. Want to check today's Amazon deal? Scan the QR code now or visit grabdeal.us/3 before it's gone.
Jack Coyne, a schoolteacher from Ballyhoney's, stood on the podium and was handed the Sam Maguire Cup by the president of the GAA. He took a hold of the cup, and he held it above his head, and 75 years of hurt vanished into the grey North Dublin sky. There were streamers, there were roars, and there were tears, so many tears. There were hugs with strangers and hugs with loved ones. And in the ground, and in front of a million TV screens and mobile devices at points far beyond Croke Park and Crossmolina, the people of Mayo saw their team win the All-Ireland. It will take days for the sensation to be fully absorbed, but it could take years and it wouldn't matter. Coyne's speech was terrific, meeting the magnitude of the occasion. He acknowledged the efforts of those who went before him and those not alive to enjoy this day. He was gracious and jubilant, a delightful mix on a truly extraordinary day. The story on which the legend is built revolves around a ferocious physical effort. The Mayo press unsettled Kerry in the first half, but we presumed it couldn't last. And there was a brief period in the second half when it looked like old ghosts would come screeching through Croke Park once more, taunting Mayo with the memory of past failures. Jack Carney hit a brilliant two-pointer in the 45th minute to put them 5 points in front, and by then even the most cautious supporter would have realized that this was on. Then, they didn't score for 10 minutes, kicking 4 wides and allowing Kerry to close the margin to a point. And then they rallied again, summoning energy to dominate the final quarter and outscore Kerry by 5 points to 3. Some judicious substitutions helped, but this was a win led by starters, and especially the outstanding Ryan O'Donoghue. This was a win led by players like the outstanding Ryan O'Donoghue. He finished the game with 0-5, but the numbers can't describe the intensity of his performance. He led that merciless press that didn't give Kerry a second's peace in possession. His tackling was brilliant, but so was the quality of his ball carrying. There was no better example than him taking a pass inside his own half, and then beating 3 defenders before playing in David McBrien, whose first-time flick to Darragh Byrne allowed the teenager to finish splendidly high into the Kerry net. O'Donoghue is a shoo-in for Footballer of the Year, and this will go down as one of the enduring performances in an All-Ireland final. He didn't put Mayo on his back, though, because there were others who carried the load. Jordan Flynn was off target with a 2-point attempt in the first half, and then he miscued off his left in the second. Both incidents stand out because otherwise he barely put a foot wrong. Mayo footballers have been slurred for years about their lack of bottle, as if mental weakness was passed through generations of a particular county like some Gothic curse. It was always a lazy jibe, but it was also an easy taunt. That was dispelled yesterday, too, thanks to the work of O'Donoghue, Flynn, and Enda Hession, who was outstanding as well. Byrne and Kobe MacDonald were the story of the build-up, the teenagers firing the unlikeliest dream. This, remember, is a team who were battered by 10 points by Roscommon in the Connacht Championship 3 months ago. Jordan Flynn and Kobe MacDonald, who dominated the match build-up. MacDonald was one of the few figures to stand up that day, but a side reliant on an 18-year-old championship debutante did not look destined for a long summer. Byrne didn't play that day at all, but Andy Moran's rehabilitation work trusted in youth, but also in the style that he had been trying to introduce during the league. Moran ball was the shorthand for a game plan that essentially boils down to every player winning their personal duel. There is no comfort in the collective here, and Byrne and MacDonald thrived, albeit to differing degrees yesterday. Where Byrne was ice cold and a constant menace, McDonald's game was more mixed. He tried an ill-advised two-pointer in the first half, and he made some rushed decisions in the second, but he also scored a tremendous point in the second period and was a vital outlet late on too. There was a third teenager starting, with Ian McGrath tagging Potty Clifford to excellent effect for the first 35 minutes. Clifford wouldn't be contained, though, and by the time McGrath departed, having given everything, the threat from Carey was pulsing heavily. David Clifford, on another afternoon of routine brilliance, kicked a two-pointer in the 65th minute, with Potty landing a single 2 minutes later. The gap was down to 2, and the Mayo support felt the creep of a familiar dread. Then Mayo countered, and in the 70th minute Tommy Conroy got the last point of the match. It put 3 between the teams, and it removed all doubt. The whistle sounded, and all those fantasies of what it could be like were surrendered. It was a little before 7 p.m., with all the post-match media done, when the Mayo squad and backroom team came out onto the Croke Park pitch. The stands were empty, save for greedy gulls picking off what had been discarded during the day. Ground staff were dutifully picking up the golden streamers released when Jack Coyne lifted the cup, and they were stuffing them into bin liners. And the players all stood, lined up like they would for a pre-match picture, and the photographers knelt before them and captured an image that will remain imperishable for as long as football is played and loved in Mayo. The lives of these players will be pushed and pulled in jubilant bedlam for weeks to come, but for those few minutes, they stood as one, the men that made the dream real.